Hello everyone, Jax West from Stephen Avery Project, Justice with Jax, and MAM Gossip. What am I even going to talk about today? I said originally we would go live today in Gossip to read Kathleen's response to the state that I read it yesterday on Stephen Avery Project. So maybe we'll read that. Then we have the ongoing drama that I do see you, Bryce. And China with the balloon. We've got the ongoing drama. Zup, Debbie. So, what shall I cover? Or should I dip into both? I wasn't planning to go live today. Because I've been going live so much that, I mean, look at, again, my hair looks crazy. In person, it doesn't look that crazy, but then here on my camera, it's like, look at that. That's all weird. Zup, cat. It's just never-ending drama that's going on with the family. And so what we had yesterday, we found out that Kayla, and I did a live about this yesterday, and 4 people who keep trying to find the live videos. There is, at the top of the page here, is announcements. Right now, the announcement that is pinned to the top of the page is the one that Christopher posted about, we don't want bullies here. But you can see in the right corner of that, it will say see all announcements, or, just see all or whatever. If you click on that, you'll see one of the pinned announcements is the link that you could click on for the page that has all of our live videos. So bookmark it as one of your favorites or whatever to make it easier for you to find or whatever once you get on there. So that's where you can find all our prior videos. When I do lives here in Gossip, they do stay up. There's only like 2 occasions where I deleted it after we went live, because I knew, since we always have family spies in here, I deleted it so they would be able to watch it because I knew it would piss them off. Aspen says, Jax, are you affiliated with the MAM Gossip group? Yes. I'm in Gossip right now, right? That's what this live's from, because sometimes I screw up and I go live in the wrong spot. I run Stephen Avery Project, and MAM Gossip is a subgroup I started a couple years ago because I wanted to be able to talk about other cases. And if I posted about other cases on Stephen Avery Project, people would get pissed off and then be, what does this have to do about Stephen? Which would then piss me off, because I'm like, how ignorant are you that you think the world should only revolve around Stephen? There's plenty of other people who need justice. And so I started MAM Gossip so I could talk about other cases, as well as so I could tell the true story of what goes on in this case and with the Avery family. Because publicly, like on the Stephen Avery Project public page, where we have over 200,000 people who like the page. Most of those people don't even know who the various family members are. They've only watched Making a Murderer. They're very interested in this show. So if you say something negative about a family member, they'll get upset. because they just don't know the truth of what's going on. So that's why this group was formed, that I titled MAM Gossip. Gossip meaning we're going to talk about the dirt in this group. We'll have people that come in the gossip group and then they're like, why do you have to talk about that? It's a gossip group. That's what it's for. It's also, we could talk about other cases, and I did for a long time, that I would post a lot of stuff in here on other cases. But then started a whole new page and group that's called Justice with Jax. The Justice with Jax page, now that's where I can cover any case I want. Doesn't have to be a wrongful conviction. It can be anything in the justice system or an injustice. Serial killers, cops killing black people, you name it. So that's Justice with Jax. So Steven Avery Project, MAM Gossip, and then Justice with Jax. And then MAM Gossip, I know there's so many groups. MAM Gossip has its own little subgroup called MAM Gossipers. Because then there's people who, you form your little communities in these Facebook groups, and so maybe you want to talk about, I've got a great recipe for such and such. So MAM Gossipers is where people can talk about anything they want. Whatever. It's been a long time since I've even been in that group, so I don't even know what's being posted in there. I know Christopher still posts like a lot of the stuff, like when I'm going to do a live, he'll post a reminder in the Gossipers group. But that's what that one's for. So, but when I make a post, it's typically going to go on all, Steven Avery Project and in MAM Gossip. But you're going to get different people who will respond to them. And so Christopher always does a reminder post on all the pages prior to me going live to remind people in an hour we're going live to discuss such and such. So yesterday he had posted on Steven Avery Project public page that I was going live in 5 minutes because there wasn't a whole lot of planning for when I did a live yesterday about finding out that Kayla filed harassment charges against Steven. So he's got a post just saying I was going to be going live in 5 minutes in Gossip. And last evening, Brittany started commenting on that post. So Brittany is Kayla's sister. Brittany is Kayla's full-blood sister. So their parents are Candy and Earl Avery. So Steven is her uncle and Brendan is her cousin. And so Brittany and I went back and forth a couple times on the public page. And she even made some weird statement claiming that Kayla's harassment thing included any of Steven's supporters, that they also couldn't talk about Kayla, which obviously not true, and that's not how those work. You can't stop me from talking about Kayla filing a harassment suit against Steven. But, these people don't know how things really work. And just because you have filed that against Steven or against Barb's against Brad, that doesn't make it so either. It has to go to court. So it's all so stupid. And what's funny too is, so like Brittany would say that I don't know what's happening. And it's like, well, sure, I don't know all that's happening, but I know a lot because they posted about it in Carla's fan group. We saw Kayla and Brittany's posts. They may have eventually deleted those threads, but we still have the screenshots and saw them. It's the interweb, baby. Once it's out there, it's there forever. You can't get rid of that. You can go to the Wayback Machine and find it. So they're the ones that said why they were upset with Steven. Which, if they had watched the live video I did yesterday, you'll see that I'm actually quite a bit on their side. Because, you know, as I say, I'm going to call everything like I see it. So I totally believe that Steven could be making himself a nuisance at that, at the home that Dolores is at. But you don't file harassment charges against somebody in prison who's there for something they didn't do. And there's so many other ways you could go around it. And this family doesn't do anything just on their own. They have their fans that they consider their friends who advise them and help them and write the things for them. This is again why these are fans and not supporters. A real supporter wouldn't advise you to file harassment charges against other family members. This stuff is all public. Brittany was like all confused on how we even knew. Well, and she had said to me, what, do I just sit around and watch the court or whatever? And it's like, well, no, somebody else had it and sent it to me. You know, my life doesn't revolve around this case. I have other things in my life and real people, not just people you meet online, that you talk to online. You know, that Barb and Carla seem to think these are all their bestest friends that they talk to on the internet. Bubba, how about the pics of Sean Tadek? Take it with a grain of salt or could lead something for KZ? The Sean Tadek angle has been brought up for years. So Sean is Scott's brother. They don't like each other. If you listen to the Brendan jail calls, you will hear at one point that Barb told Brendan she had to change her number, and she was claiming she had to change her number because she was getting, there's that word again, harassed by Sean Tadek. That Sean Tadek was hitting on her and made her uncomfortable. Did that happen? Did that not? Don't know, because it's always the little boy who cried wolf. Once you're caught in more than one lie, everything you say is suspect. So Brendan used to babysit. Sean had a daughter, and so Brendan used to babysit Sean's daughter, and at one time they got along. But they don't now. Um, I don't know. I don't recall if we've heard that Kathleen has talked to Sean or not. I don't remember. Um, but I know back when Making a Murderer had first come out, and there were so many people who were diving deep into this case, lots of different people reached out to Sean Taddock and had talked to him. And I had somebody reach out to me at one point too, who used to be engaged to Sean at one time. And so she was giving me a lot of family dirt. The person that I always say or wonder if anybody's talked to is Scott's mom. All right, first of all, Scott and his mom do not have a good relationship. You know, he literally threw her against a wall. Scott does have a record of putting his hands on women, multiple women. And did you know he was also married in the past to another Barb? So there's two Barb Taddocks. So has Scott's mom been asked about the 2 times that Scott was allegedly at the hospital that day to visit her? You know, I know it's already been said that back then the hospital didn't have any cameras, but has anybody talked to her to find out? It was Scott there twice? Was Barb there in the evening? How long were they there? All that. I would like to know. Easier to remember their names. Yeah. So I don't know what information Sean has, but I know a lot of people have reached out to him, and I've seen the screenshots over the years of people messaging with Sean. So, yeah. So I don't know if there's much there. This harassment charges, the harassment charges that the family keep, they're going after other family members is just bizarre to me, especially going after Stephen, who's in prison. That's true, Jules. If Scott's been violent to his mother in the past, who knows? Yeah, she might be scared of him. I believe you can go online onto the, when you can just Google Wisconsin criminal records, and that's going to bring you to where in Wisconsin you can look up everybody. It's all there. Everything's there. Wisconsin is really open with their records, so you'll be able to see like all of Scott Taddock's divorces. You can see all of Carla Chase's records. You can see when Carla Chase had an affair and abandoned her husband and her kids to move out of state to go live with the guy she was having the affair with, and then started divorce proceedings, and then eventually went back to her husband and her kids. And you can see that she's got sticky fingers and steals from stores. You can look up Chuck and Earl and all of them. You know, so Wisconsin makes it really easy to see all of their records. So Bubba found his on there in Wisconsin. I've never looked to see if mine's on there. My trespassing. You know, I don't live there. And trespassing is so dumb. Ooh, I'm going to have to do that. And see if when Carla told her daddy, and her daddy called Josh Radant to have him file the trespassing charges against me. Wonder if that's on there. Well, I don't know if Colborne has a record. Never looked. Froze up again. Dumb. What is this one? Does anyone feel like Teresa is still alive? Not to change the subject. Just a lack of emotion from the family is crazy to me. If that was my daughter, I would be so distraught. This is something that has been discussed, that people are free to have their own theories and beliefs here. So I know there are people who believe Teresa Halbach is still alive. I believe one of the moderators here believes that Teresa Halbach is still alive. I do not believe she's alive. If something came out and said she was alive, I wouldn't be shocked because this case is so bizarre. I defend the Halbach family in their lack of emotion, because the thing that I say is you just don't know how people are raised, and if you're not going to show emotion in public. Debbie, you're commenting. I see you. So that just may be the way that family is, that you don't show that in public. And I can tell you this too. When I went to one of Brendan's hearings, when it was at the 7th Circuit here in Chicago, the Halbach family was there. But the Halbach family got to be in a private room. So they weren't like sitting in the courtroom or waiting in line to get into the courtroom like the rest of us were. And then right before the judge comes out, then the Halbach family came and sat down in seats that were reserved for them, and also somebody had like put down a blanket, you know, because it's just those wooden benches. So I guess they put a blanket to make it more comfortable for them to sit. But I had also seen the Halbach family when I first got to the building, because since this is in Chicago, you know, it's in this big high-rise thing. So when I was down on the first floor before you're getting in the elevator to go up, I had seen Halbachs, like they had walked past me, and they all had that same look. You know, they're just showing nothing on their face. So I don't believe the family knows like Teresa's alive and she's got a new name and, you know, is just off somewhere. I mean, this is just a Wisconsin farming family. You know, this isn't Alias. If you remember the show Alias that Jennifer Garner was on, that, you know, they take this sweet girl now to be a spy. And yeah, I don't believe that at all. But other people have their theories of her being alive. And I know there's this poor woman in Canada that gets harassed a lot. There's that word harassed again, but she's really harassed on people saying that she is Teresa Halbach. So, I know the family has said things that were suspicious in, like, when Teresa is only missing at that point, they're already referring to her in the past tense. So that's weird. But there's really nothing to me that points to them being part of some weird movie plot that the girl is alive with a new identity. For what reason? That Manitowoc paid her off so they could get rid of Steven? Where does Manitowoc have that kind of money? And Teresa was like really close to her younger sisters. Is she really just gonna walk away from her? It just, to me, it doesn't add up. But I don't know what truly happened to Teresa Halbach, because I do not believe the bones that were found at the salvage yard or anywhere around there are Teresa Halbach, because there is nothing that has proven that it's Teresa. So all I know is the last time she was allegedly seen was at Halloween in 2005. But then when you're looking for motive and opportunity and all of that, everything points to Bobby Dassey. So I think whatever has happened to her was at his hands. But what he did he rape her? Don't know. Did he shoot her? Don't know. Did he stab her? Don't know. Did he strangle her? Don't know. I don't know. So I'm not going to theorize on it because there's just nothing there. But we know that Bobby said he saw her. And then Bobby claims he saw her walking towards Steven's trailer, which we know didn't happen. I believe Steven said that she was in her car when she put down the window and gave him the auto trader. So she's about to leave when she's like, oh, and here's this. And so then Steven takes the auto trader and goes to walk back into his trailer to go put it there. Goes and does that. And then comes back out. He was going to go talk to Bobby about something or another. He sees Bobby's car is gone. And then he's able to see on Avery Road down by where you're going to get to 147, he could see Teresa Halbach's vehicle leaving. So we know that's how quickly Bobby followed her out. And you also know from Steven's trailer, you don't have clear view of all of Avery Road. So there's going to be a portion, because Steven's trailer is, here. Avery Road goes this way. And then straight down this way, down to 147. Back over here. So in this curve, he can't, because his trailer also isn't right there at the road. It's pushed back some. So this whole corner here, you're not going to be able to see. So it is very credible that Bobby Dassey could get in his vehicle, be following Teresa Halbach, yet Steven would only see Teresa's vehicle and not Bobby's. So, and then Bobby's story keeps changing. Steven's story remains the same. Steven's telling the truth, Bobby is lying. Bobby is the only one home when all those things go on the computer. No, have not gotten a copy of Kayla's filing. If anybody has that, send that my way. and we'll post it. Even though the family will then say, leave us alone, blah, blah, blah. Part of the case, you've included Stephen. Yeah, and Barb is protecting Bobby like her life depends on it. If my son has done wrong like that he murdered somebody, he needs help. Not me covering up for him. I wouldn't do it. I guess you can call me a bad mom if you want. Somebody says someone posted the thing from Kayla. I'll see if I can find it. Yeah, Dennis, we have just the posting from online that said it had been filed. We don't have the actual paperwork like got posted from that Brad, but see, Brad posted his own. So that's how we have all of Barb's documents, is because Brad received it and then Brad uploaded it. So, but I know that it's possible to get Kayla's filing. I just don't know if anybody's done it. So, yeah. So if somebody's got that, yeah, send it our way and we'll post it. And I'll say again how wrong I think it is for Kayla to have filed this against Stephen, even though I do understand that he's probably being a dick to Kayla, or I'm not supposed to swear, being a smurf to Kayla. I'm sure he is, because he's desperate to have contact with his mom and doesn't want people mistreating his mother. And so he may be taking things out on Kayla that he shouldn't be. And then the fans that Stephen talks to may do things like calling the home and leaving those bad reviews for the home, thinking they're helping Stephen when it's just making the situation worse. LE stands for law enforcement, Nikki. You know, when you're on the internet and typing a lot, you know, people come up with a shorthand, you know, so LE is law enforcement. And that could mean anything, you know, so it could be the Manitowoc, it could be Calumet, whatever, you know, so it's just cops. LE, law enforcement. Ow. Dog's nails in my side. What else? I don't think I'm going to go through and read Kathleen's filing. We did that on Stephen Avery Project yesterday. So if you want to watch me read the whole filing, you can go to Stephen Avery Project. And it got shared in here too. So where you can read the whole filing. But I thought it was so well done that she pulled out all the old affidavits too. And I know there's a lot of people who are newer to the case. So like hearing that Blaine saw Bobby driving Teresa Halbach's car is like brand new to them. But it's not. Blaine said this several years ago. You know, that affidavit is old. But Kathleen putting all those in there is tying everything up with a nice little bow of all these Brady and Denny violations that they have that should be giving Stephen a new trial. Yeah, proper spanking. That she did. So, because the state, and that's, we get a whole lot of people confused because they keep going, we get posts all the time of, I thought the state denied this. The state can't deny. The state is just the prosecutor. I mean, maybe that would be easier for people to understand if instead of when I post things saying the state and if I said the prosecutors. But so it's just the prosecution saying, no, we don't want Kathleen to be able to use this stuff because we're going to lose our case if she does. They don't get to decide squat. Their response is what they're just saying to the judge. Please, judge, don't listen to her. She's a big meanie. She doesn't do her homework, and she's a this and she's a that. So that's all that state's thing is. It's the judge, it's the court that will determine if this can be used or not. So, and then the way it worked is Kathleen filed the stay and remand. Then the state gets to respond and then a rebut, maybe is the way it should be worded. They get to rebut. And then Kathleen gets to respond. And then it's done. Now all that's left is for the judge to rule. So, because in this, Stephen's the plaintiff, not the defendant. And the plaintiff always goes twice. So, there was a Derek Chauvin case just recently, the big case here in the States. So when you saw like those closing arguments, it was prosecution spoke, the defense spoke, and now the prosecution gets to go again after what the defense just said. So it's whoever is the plaintiff. And so Stephen's the plaintiff because it's him saying, I think I should get this new trial. So Kathleen got to go twice. It's done. State doesn't get to respond again. We're just waiting for the court. Now, I do not know how long the judge has. Hold on. Gotta sneeze. And the judge for the stay and remand would only be ruling if the case now goes back down. Ow, her nail's in my side again. Mallory, stop. If it goes back down. So, I believe. Thank you, China. I don't think we'll be getting a ruling from this saying he gets a new trial. It has to go back down to say then is this evidence going to be included to then go back up. Thank you, Debbie. That's where we're at on that. But I do not know if there is, thank you, Nana, 30 days or 60 days or something like that. That I don't know. Kat says, the judge can take as much time as they want to decide. So basically from now until the end of the world. I know on lots of, so like where the case is currently in that court, before she now Kathleen wanted to put the pause in it to bring it back down for this new stuff. Yeah, the judge has as long as they want. But then on some things they don't have as long as they want. But see, I'm not basically a lawyer, so I don't know these things. So we just have to wait. Andrea says, what also frustrates me is how they are, and now it just went up. They're claiming Teresa was raped. How did they even know that? Was it just an assumption? That's Brendan's confession. That's where that comes from. So there's no physical evidence that Teresa Halbach was raped, but Brendan said that he and Stephen raped her. But in Stephen's trial, there's no rape. Because in Stephen's trial, there's no Brendan. In Stephen's trial, it is just Stephen who kills her in his garage. They didn't use Brendan in Stephen's trial. And in Stephen's trial, Kratz does, there's only one person responsible for this. And then months later, he's trying Brendan for the same crime, but for under different circumstances. Now there's the rape. Stephen raped her. Brendan raped her. They cut her hair, punch her in the face, cut her throat, stab her. She lives through that all. And then they got to carry her out of the trailer and bring her in the garage and then shoot her in there, and she still won't die. And then put her in the car to then drive her a couple feet and then take her and throw her on the fire and start burning her. I don't know. It just, I mean, think about that. Not that none of that fits. How is the body burning that fast? And then also think about, okay, so this happened on Monday, and on Saturday morning, Stephen and Brendan go to Crivets. So you've just done this stuff on Monday, and the car is there, and there's bones here, and there's stuff in these burn barrels, and you just go to the family vacation home? You don't go, gee, the whole family's out of town for the weekend. We're going to stay and we're going to crush the car when everybody's gone and nobody will see. So we're going to crush the car and we can dump these burning barrels out and get rid of these bones. No, they go to Crivets instead. They weren't running, because if you're running, do you go to your family home? Hi, Dylan.
Hi.
There's my nephew behind us. So, shut up. It makes no sense at all. Michelle says that's why Bobby stayed home. Yeah, Bobby was home. At that time, Scott wasn't part of the family, so Scott's not going up north. And Earl was there. Earl was the one working the salvage yard that day. But the salvage yard is only open till noon on Saturdays. So he could have just been, it was his Saturday to work. So he could have, worked till noon and then drove up north where the rest of the family was. Or not. Looks like Dylan is walking through the walls. We know that Stephen's not the brightest. But are you going to leave the car on your property when you've got a car crusher? And your whole family is going to go out of town for the weekend. The salvage yard is only open till noon on Saturdays and is not open on Sundays. So you could crush that car and nobody would see it. And one of the things that Carla's husband, Stacy, told me when I went to the salvage yard the first time, he said what you do is you crush the car and it becomes becomes this box, this, little square. And then you take the square of that car and then you would put it inside another car and then crush that. And he's like, you would never find that car again. So I think Stephen would be smart enough to know how to get rid of the car and would not go up to Crivets if he's just murdered somebody. What night was he seen pushing the car? He was seen pushing the car Saturday morning between 1 and 2 a.m. on Saturday morning is when Bobby, that's what we learned from Kathleen's response yesterday. So it was between 1 and 2 a.m. on Saturday, which is something that when I had gone through all the CASO documents, it was Stephen and his mother did not drive up to Crivets until Saturday morning. So they were still home at the time that Bobby was pushing that car. So then would make perfect sense on why he would not be driving it. So he could have driven it from wherever the car's been stashed prior to this until he got to Avery Road, and then he turned the engine off, put it in neutral, and him and a buddy pushed the car into the salvage yard. Thank you, Dennis. Why did Bobby choose that day to do it when he would also know that the family was going to be out of town? Could it be because the one guy, Kevin Romlow, had told Colborn that he saw the car parked at that turnaround on the 3rd and 4th? So on that Friday night, Kevin Romlow tells Colborn the car is at the turnaround. And now all of a sudden at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. the next day, Bobby is pushing it. Bobby worked Sunday through Thursday. So he's done working as of 6 a.m. or whatever it is on Fridays. So did the car get moved because now they knew people had seen it? You know, we don't know. Okay, that's just theorizing. Like I say, you know, we don't know for sure on that, but we do know that this guy saw him pushing the car. We don't know why he was moving it that day. We just know somebody saw him moving it that day. If you need to, Dennis, if you need to, you can private message to MAM Gossip or to Stephen Avery Project. Or if it's something you need to email me, the email is official StephenAveryProject@gmail.com. The headlights. So, looking through the queso stuff, it was the 3rd. So the night that, or the day that Teresa's family reported her missing is the day that Stephen and Chuck went together to a hardware that Stephen had seen headlights. So that's Thursday. And then I think Chuck saw the taillights the next day. So, did Barb go up to the cottage that weekend? Barb was at Scott's trailer. Yeah. Because Brendan went up there. I think did Brendan go with Stephen and Dolores? I seem to recall that, but I don't know that for sure. So, yeah, I don't think Barb was there. And it's not something that the Dassey boys regularly did, other than Brendan. Bubba says, when I worked third shift, I would be up all Friday and Saturday night like I was working. Stayed used to them hours. Oh, he went with Chuck. Okay, Michelle. Yeah, because that was also in my head. Or did he go with Chuck? Yeah. Okay. So, but, yeah, Brendan did not go with his mom. Zachary says, did Bobby leave keys in her car and then law enforcement took the key? I'm don't know. Because I had been thinking for so long, because of the weirdness of Ryan Hilgas and having the day planner and the magic key not being Teresa Halbach's main key, that, and Colborne calling in the plates, that the car had been found due to Kevin Romlow telling Colborne that he saw the car. And then they couldn't get into the car. And that they then went to Teresa's house. And that's where she got the key. All right, let me see. I just got this. Come on, blow up so I can see it. All right, temporary restraining order. Let me see. Can I turn it this way and it'll be easier to read? Man, am I blind. Okay. Temporary restraining order, etc., served on Stephen Avery on 4/21/2021 by State of Wisconsin Department of Corrections. Firearm surrender document to be served on respondent, which this was talked about in yesterday's live. That's just standard. Obviously, Stephen wouldn't have firearms in prison, but that's just a standard thing. Hearing is on May 5th at 3:30 by Zoom. Firearm surrender hearing is on May 12th, 21 at 1:45 if needed. Petition in order for waiver of fees granted. Zoom information along with letter regarding how to appear, blah, blah, blah. Fax to Waupun Correctional to be served to respondent. Confidential address information. Petition and prop order for waiver of fees of Avery Kayla. Fax confirmation sent to MTSO, probation, dispatch, and CSA. Email directly to Records Department at Waupun Correctional Institute. Is that it? That is it. Wait. Is this the second one? Stephen's address. So dumb. So somebody remember that. May 5th is when that hearing is. Thank you for sending, Dennis. How dumb is that? Sorry, now I'm just clearing all this stuff that's on my iPhone. I'm getting distracted. Squirrel. What else did we learn yesterday in the filing? We learned that the new witness reached out. Okay, so first you had him reaching out on the 5th, the day Teresa's car was found. Then he reached out after watching Making a Murderer and didn't hear back from Strang and Buting. It also said he reached out to the Innocence Project. You know, because the Innocence Project is who got Stephen free the first time. And he didn't hear back from the Innocence Project. And then after watching Making a Murderer 2, he then reached out to Kathleen Zellner, who jumped on it right away. He did not know about this dumb reward and isn't looking to get a reward. If the reward money was to be given to him, he would donate it to the Hall Box. So Kathleen also made sure to point out that two of Bobby's brothers, you had both Blaine and Brian, have said things that contradict what Bobby says. Brian had said way back when this crime happened that Bobby had told him he saw Teresa Halbach leave. And then Blaine came forward, what was it, 2017, I think, is when that affidavit was dated, 2017, that Blaine says while on the school bus on 147 going to the salvage yard, they passed Bobby driving a blue or green vehicle. That he did not know that vehicle. It was not a vehicle he had seen at the salvage yard. And what a coincidence that Teresa's vehicle was blue or green, depending on how you see it. Also, people's eyes are different. You know, there'll be things that are on TV and I'll think it's such and such color. And then you'll hear somebody say, you know, oh, in that purple dress or whatever. And I'm like, purple? That don't look purple to me. So that's why I've never been big on the whole conspiracy over the different RAVs. Because I don't see any confusion on some people saying it's blue and some people saying it's green. My only problem with the RAV is they're supposed to provide that to Kathleen for testing. And why is it okay for them not to give her the RAV4? And now we're hearing of Bobby pushing this car with somebody who's pushing from the passenger side and the passenger door is open. And we know there are fingerprints that are on that car that did not match anybody in the Avery family. So shouldn't we be like looking? You know, and now when you're thinking of people actually pushing a car, you would have a better idea of where these fingerprints would be. Wanda, because they know it is filled with the true evidence, right? All that sweat DNA. Sweaty, sweat, sweat. People ask me, what do I think the judge will rule? I don't have faith in the system, especially there. So I hope for the best, but expect the worst. Dennis says, have you heard that the car was in the evidence files dated on the 3rd of November? We've seen something last night on it. Yeah, so that's something in this case too, that there's lots of things, lots of documents that are dated incorrectly that make things look crazy. Like the death certificate for Teresa, when you didn't even have a body. You didn't have bones and so that's just for me showing more cover up by law enforcement, because they were on their path of we're going to make these pieces fit so they're Steven. So yeah, they have documents where they say they have the car in their possession on the 3rd, the day that Teresa was reported missing. So Teresa lives right next door to her parents. Well, I say that, but they're far apart, the houses. It's not, right next to each other. I've done videos where I've gone to the house and have shown you how far apart those houses are. But Teresa is gone Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Her parents next door don't notice her not there. Okay, maybe. Scott Blodorn, who she lives with and has sex with, he doesn't know she's gone. I know it's been said like they work different shifts or whatever, but come on. So it was her Thomas Pierce at the photography studio, who she only worked there, part-time doing things, who is the one that's like, hey, haven't heard from Teresa, and reached out to her mother. So her own family and roommate didn't know she was missing. So Thomas Pierce calls Karen Halbach, and then Karen Halbach is contacting all the family to see if they've heard from her, and then she calls the police. So many things are suspicious. And to me, the only thing that's not is Stephen in this. I don't know how Stephen would look remotely guilty. He's got his own place. His girlfriend's in jail. So he's living alone at that time, because I know Carla likes to insinuate the porn on Bobby's computer could have been done by Stephen. But if Stephen's going to be looking at porn, he would be doing it in his own house. Why would he go next door to go look it up over there? That's just dumb. Makes zero sense. Severe overreach. His $36 million lawsuit had just begun. He was going to be getting money from that at some point. And then on top of that, he was about to be getting money from the state. $200,000. That's not, don't confuse that with the money he had to settle for in his $36 million. So he was about to be getting money in December. This is the end of October. So what does he have to be so angry about when he's going to be coming into this big, huge payday and he's got a girlfriend? Why would he then kill this random girl? That makes zero sense. He has a paper trail with Teresa Halbach, as she has been there multiple times, taking pictures. When Stephen called to schedule the appointment, he said, send the one, that's been here before. Guilters will make that out like, oh, see, he's planning it. And no, I see it as she's taken the pictures before, likes the work she's done, worked for him. You don't want other strangers coming around. This is the one that's come, so send that same girl. Guilters will try and say, well, he made the appointment under the name B. Yonda. Well, yeah, because he was selling Barb's car, and that's her name, and that's the name on the title. That's not suspicious either. We know from phone records and from hearing the actual jail calls. He was on the phone with his girlfriend throughout the day. We know that he goes to Crivets when there's still evidence, allegedly, all over the property. So to me, it's pretty cut and dry with Stephen and his actions of that day. Nothing suspicious in any of his actions. The only thing Stephen has ever said was he wasn't sure what night he had a fire. That's not suspicious to me. That's not shady. That's when he's being questioned on the 3rd, 4 days later or 3 days later. Did I have a fire Monday night, or was it Tuesday night, or was it Sunday night? I highly doubt Stephen is really paying attention very well to what days of the week he has a fire. When they don't have garbage service, and you either have to take your garbage, load it up in a vehicle, and drive it to a dump, or you burn it. So, is Stephen Man of the Year? Nope. Not even a little bit. Greatest guy in the world? Nope. Don't have to like Stephen at all to know that the guy was set up. And everything's pointing at his nephew, Bobby Dassey, whom Stephen had a bad relationship with. Because he was not happy with Bobby selling drugs and car parts out of the pit. Bobby didn't like Stephen. Stephen didn't like Bobby. Stephen is somebody who went to prison for 18 years for something he didn't do. He doesn't want to be around somebody selling drugs on his property. Bobby's selling pot. Scott Taddock selling pot. Barb gets caught with pot. Barb gets let go. Scott and Barb claim bankruptcy. Scott and Barb then buy a house. Scott's debts get wiped out. That all looks suspicious. Everything. Right, no pot charges were filed against Barb. She was let go. They took her and let her go. And now we have the family imploding all over and pointing fingers to other people in the family who won't just sit by and protect Bobby and Scott. Let's not, I'm trying to get back to this one. Let's not forget that Teresa was supposedly afraid of Stephen. If she was truly afraid of him or uncomfortable around him, why would she ever go and take photos for him? And then Kat said several times. Right. When they bring up the whole, he was only in a towel one of the times she went there. He has a pool in his yard. Could he have been in his pool And she showed up and he's got, because how do you know there's nothing underneath the towel? I want to know, first of all. Um, or, okay, say there is nothing underneath the towel. He lives in a junkyard. Maybe he was in his pool with no bathing suit on. Whatever. His property. And she shows up there and he wraps a towel around him. Whatever. Steven, the times that I have talked to him, will be very jokey. So I could see if he's having to wrap a towel around himself, whether or not he has a bathing suit on or not, that he would make some kind of joke about it. That some people who may be oversensitive might say he's being a perv. But if Teresa was afraid, why would she go back? Which, there's differing reports on that. There's some reports that say she laughed about it. So, which is it? But she didn't have to go there, or she could have brought somebody with her. She was driving around, hopping out to pictures, took 5 minutes. You take somebody with her. But she didn't. So I don't buy that for a second, that she was afraid of Steven. And wasn't the key not found after a couple times? Yep. And then it was there all of a sudden. Andrea says, I'm waiting to see who's going to turn on who first. Living this life has to be exhausting. Yep. It's, come on, somebody, make a deal. So whoever you are that pushed that car, Kathleen's gonna find you. So you'd be wise to go forward. Come forward, go to Kathleen. And let her get you a deal for telling what you know. Scrolling. Oh, already got that. Zachary says the weather was in the 40s. That's what Strang said. So don't know if he was swimming. Maybe he showered. Maybe, yeah. Maybe it wasn't the pool. See, I always remember, okay, because my son's birthday is 10/10. So that's 10/10 always stands out to me. Obviously, my son's birthday, right? And so when he was little, you know, you have the birthday parties. And his entire life, my son is 27 now, his entire life, we have always had great weather around his birthday. And the Monday near his birthday is always Columbus Day, with no school. And it's always been a beautiful weekend. But I'm also not Manitowoc. I am a Chicago suburb. So they're colder up there typically than we are here. Scrolling. Bubba says, if she was afraid, why not call Auto Trader to say no thanks, right? It's only $10. She makes $10 if it's an appointment set by Auto Trader. $10. I mean, how much is she spending in gas doing all that driving around to get that $10 picture? Has Kathleen ever talked with Barb or Scott? She's talked. Jeez. I guess I'm just going to have to say I'm not sure. I don't remember for sure. So I don't want to state something as fact if I don't know for sure. I believe she has talked to Barb, though, at some point. But Barb hates her. Barb talks bad about Kathleen all the time. Go figure. And I don't know if Scott's ever talked to her. I wouldn't think so. But if Kathleen was talking to Barb on the phone, Barb would have it on speaker and Scott would be listening. Whether or not he was speaking, don't know. Somebody will talk in the inner circle that knows what Bobby did. The heat is on. Well, and Bobby's wife, he dated her in high school, too. So, she's been with Bobby this entire time. So, I would think she's got to know something. You know, she's been with him a long time and has children with him. Diana, why would he tell everyone she was coming if he planned to kill her, right? You know, but that's when guilters will say it was like a heat of the moment thing. Maybe Steven made a pass at her and she rebuffed it and made him angry and then he killed her. Why would he make a pass at her in the middle of a work day? Well, that Steven would have lunch with his mom every day. And you can also see from his phone records that he was talking to Jody's lawyers. So he was dealing with some stuff while he was waiting for Teresa Halbach to get there. But is that typically when somebody's gonna, you know, get angry and rape somebody is at 2 o'clock on a Monday? Kat doesn't think Scott has ever talked to Kathleen. Yeah, I wouldn't think so. I always wonder if Steven knew she got more money for a spontaneous pick. That's why he requested her. Correct. So he knew she would get more money for a hustle shot. That's why he had her number written down. And that he had tried to call her back because now there was, after she was gone, I believe it was, he tried to call her back to see if she was still in the area because there was like a front loader, end loader, something like that from the salvage yard that they wanted to sell. So he had tried calling her cell to see if she's still in the area and if she could come back and do this hustle shot. But he didn't get her, obviously. Scrolling. Mariah says, I don't mean this is any offense at all. I love listening to you. I even go back. I love listening to your lives, and I think you're so level-headed. But do you not get sick of going over the same thing every day? Yes, I do. And, yeah, we've been doing these lives for this last week because of all this stuff. But I've been doing this since, I would say, 2016. You know, so a lot of the stuff I go over, I've gone over and over and over again. Or next week, we're going to start doing the Watch Making a Murderer together. I've done that 2 other times before in lives. You know, so this will be the 3rd time that I'm watching the whole series with people, then not counting all the times I've watched it myself. So, yeah, I do get tired of going over the same things. But I also realize that there are new people to the case every day that don't know all of this. And I don't want to come off as some big know-it-all on the case either when I do all this. I mean, I knew more about this case at one time. I have forgotten a lot of things over the years. There are people that obsess on the case big time, so they know every last thing backwards and forwards. That's not me. You know, so I just try to do the best I can. So like in these lives, I'm coming on here to address something and then I'm going to answer people's questions. And yeah, a lot of times it's the same stuff I've gone over and over again. Paula, Why wouldn't they want to know for sure who killed her? Instead of having the real killer out on the streets do the same thing to another family's daughter, I'd want to know. I'd want to know for sure. Look what happened when the wrongly convicted Stephen on the rape case and left real rapist out. He did it again. Yeah, that's why I say true supporters, we're the ones who care about justice for Teresa Halbach. Because whoever did whatever they did to her need to be taken into custody and off the street so they don't hurt anyone else. True, Mariah. The more times I go over it, maybe someone might pick something else up more. Right? Because it's always good to have fresh eyes. You know, that, and maybe somebody can put these pieces together just so that they will finally click. You know, so, yeah, exactly. All right, down to the bottom of everybody's stuff. So I guess I'm going to call this one to a close. No plans, again, to go live anymore today unless something else blows up. Monday, we go live in here to do the Making a Murder, watching it together. Yeah. If the judge comes back with a decision, we would go live immediately as soon as we're able to, get our hands on it. Hopefully there's no more drama. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. The drama is interesting and entertaining, right? As long as it doesn't hurt Stephen or Brendan, like Kayla's filing. Any news y'all come across, feel free to share it here in MAM Gossip. Y'all get it faster than we do. Right, Kat? No more drama for the rest of the weekend, please. So you guys get stuff way faster than I do. I get, people send screenshots or whatever of things, if there's something you want posted in here and you don't want your name used for it, you can message it to the page or to me for us to share it and that you're kept completely out of it. Because trust me, I totally understand not wanting to get picked on by the family fans. I get it. So, drama, pointing fingers, one or the other. So, I'm out for the day. Knock on wood. Thank you for joining me. You can read Kathleen's response if you haven't already and want to read it for yourself. It is posted in here, but you can go to her website, KathleenTZellner.com, and go to her page for Stephen Avery. If you're bored and want something else to do a dive into, you can go onto her page there for Melissa Kaluzinski. She is a friend of mine that her case is a really sad one. So you can find information on that on Kathleen's website as well. And you can find stuff on that on Justice with Jax too. So, all right, investigation continues, but not today. Let's enjoy the weekend. And we'll get together Monday, 1 p.m. Central or Chicago time to start Making a Murderer Part 1, Episode 1.